Hey, Christine, remember when you were a kid and you thought that your career was going to be this like perfect straight line trajectory?
Oh my, yes. That is not at all what happened. It ended up being way more of a squiggle than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy that I embraced all of the squiggles along the way. Hey, listeners, welcome to Embrace the Squiggle podcast, where we uncover the hidden gems of career transformation, one unfiltered squiggly adventure at a time. We are Christine
And Colleen,
and this is episode 2 with Lauren Moore, and we are already laughing hysterically. Lauren, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be on episode 2 of what is bound to be an incredible podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
We're excited. We were excited to see you land in our calendars so quickly too.
and you were definitely who we thought of instantly when we thought of who we needed to have as this inaugural guest on our podcast.
Are you serious? You're
Yeah,
just saying
absolutely.
that to get me like relaxed because I'm
No.
not used to being in the hot seat. That's what I think is happening, but
Not at
means a
all.
lot.
And I think our first question is going to actually tell you why.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would love to know from you how the three of us are connected. We want to hear your version of the story.
What a great question. So I work as a brand strategist, mainly with Phil Pallen Collective, which is specializes in personal branding and helping people position, build, and promote their brands online. And as personal branding experts, I'm saying experts in air quotes because it always feels weird to say something like that. But as personal branding experts, generally our clients tend to kind of bounce off of each other like popcorn, and we'll usually work with one person and then get a referral from the next. And so Kendra Reddy, I believe, is what started our little popcorn situation. So Kendra Reddy is a keynote speaker and executive coach based in Vancouver. She came to us from Phil's and my good friend from university in Canada. Kendra worked with us. I believe that she was biking with you, Christine, and then mentioned our services. Was that it?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And Kendra and I actually became connected. We're both here in Vancouver, except for the connection actually lives in Toronto. And yes, Kendra and I were actually doing Stanley Park loops. And I don't even remember the gist of the conversation. I just said, who is this? Like, who does this for you? She was rebranding actually. And I said, who does this for you? I think it's time. I think were my words. I think it's time. She goes, yes, it is. And the next thing I know.
Yeah. And then, so we branded you, Christine. And then shortly after, you referred Colleen to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember if we were still in the process of branding you or if your site had gone live, but it feels like I've known the two of you for a very, very long time. And you're both examples of branding done right, in my opinion. We're like so proud of the work that we've done with you. And I show your websites to pretty much everyone when I'm trying to pitch them and convince them to work with us. So thank you for that. And yeah, I feel like it's just been such a ride helping both of you figure out how to articulate your voices online.
I know for me, just recently, I had a moment where I needed to sit with my brand. And I was like, maybe it's time to refresh this and change some things up. And I sat with it for a little bit. And I actually went back and I said to it and I said, no, this is spot on. This is still very right. So yeah,
That's
you guys
highest compliment.
You guys are rock stars. Oh my gosh. My life has never been the same. I think I said that on your podcast. I need to say it on my own now. My life was turned upside down working with the two of you for the better. I know. I miss you when we're not in contact.
I know. It's been so great.
So great. Okay. So we want you to start to walk us through your squiggle.
Okay.
What did you think you wanted to be when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I was interested in anything and everything. On career day in second grade, we all were told to come dressed up as what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I went as a paleontologist. So I
Love
had
that.
like the lab coat and my mom's glasses with the lenses punched out from the 80s and like brushes and some dinosaur toys because I was fascinated by the Jurassic period. And then I decided that I wanted to be the first woman president of the United States. And then I was very interested in medicine because my grandfather was a surgeon. And so I really wanted to be a neurosurgeon. Then I got really interested in law and I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. And so you can basically see that pretty much every year, depending on whatever I was into, I went all in. I was like, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up.
You were squiggling before you even like left elementary school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, I'm sure we'll probably talk about this when we get into university and even my career. But if you're someone who loves learning, choosing a line or a path can be nearly impossible because I really find every kind of industry, every kind of job, every kind of person fascinating. And when you're someone who leads with curiosity, choosing just one thing is kind of intimidating. And so it's always been tough for me to kind of make up my mind about what I want to do or what I even wanted to study. Because again, I just love the act of learning and it doesn't really matter what the subject is.
That's fantastic. I mean, I love the idea too from day one of being squiggly, right? This whole concept of you know what you want to do from day one and you go through life and you get exactly there. It's just such a strange concept to me. Like, I feel like there's so few people. And I think as time goes on, we're finding generations are getting less and less like that, right? Like 100 years ago, like, yeah, you might have been a farmer and you were a farmer your whole life. And now with all of these options, it's so hard to pick just one.
100%. And what's really interesting is in my line of work, I feel like I have an ability to be able to look at someone and immediately know how they should be positioned in a way that's complementary to what they've achieved and where their area of genius is. It's very straightforward for me to do that for someone else. But when it comes to actually holding up that mirror to myself, it's basically impossible.
I feel like that's like that for everybody though, right? It's like, the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? Like
Totally.
you can't do that stuff for yourself. It's so hard.
Yeah.
No, we have blind spots.
So when you think back to your first professional job, right? Like what's like the first thing that you got paid to do as, I don't know, a grown-up kind of thing?
My first paid professional job was a paid internship in New York City for a publication called Daily Candy. I'm not sure if you remember it, but basically, Daily Candy was the first kind of lifestyle email newsletter, and it was a big deal. It was really the first of its kind. I know that when I worked there, I believe it had 5 million subscribers, and you could subscribe on a local level, and it was only sent in the US, I believe, but it was like a local level and a national level. And they would be sending out email newsletters on certain days, and they'd highlight cool designers to check out, cool new restaurant openings. It was like really, really awesome. And it was later acquired by NBC Universal. And then from what I understand, shut down by NBC Universal, which is devastating. So for my internship with Daily Candy, I was an editorial intern. Mainly my responsibilities included research and fact checking. So I would go through the various articles that were on the website and the email newsletters before they went out. I learned how to highlight when a statement was made as a fact, and then I would contact the publicist and or the owner of whatever company or product was being featured and confirm, be like, are you opening on June 27th? Yes. Is this bag called the Rebecca? Yes. So that was my first foray into an editorial type environment.
What would you say is your biggest passion in life?
I really love the challenge of figuring out how to take pieces of something and bring it together and make it successful. And I don't totally know how to like articulate it other than that, but as an example, if I've got an idea for a brand for someone, I love taking mood board elements and putting them together to capture the personality of a person. if it's a social media strategy for a person, I love figuring out what that content strategy should be and the different styles and putting it together and helping them grow. So I really love kind of the strategic element of assembling those different pieces. If it's helpful, I can also share my Clifton strengths because I feel like that really does capture who I am. Would that be useful?
Absolutely.
All
Yes.
right.
You know, I love a good Clifton Strength story.
Yeah,
So.
me too. Me too. Actually, when I took the Clifton Strengths assessment, it was revelatory for me because I wasn't even aware that those traits were strengths at all. Like I didn't even know that they were things that could be good or helpful. But my first one is futuristic, and then strategic, then focus, then intellection, and then input.
Oh,
So
I
Colleen will
am-
probably do a better job of articulating it, but maybe I'll have a go at what I understand about this. And then Colleen and Christine, please
well,
correct me if
I'm
I'm
just not surprised.
really.
I'm smiling because that, like, as soon as you said futuristic, I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, I've always had an ability to decide I want to do something, to have a vision for what that is, create a plan, and then do it. And it's been my superpower from day one. It's also been kind of my Achilles heel because it really supercharges the overachiever side of me, which actually really isn't who I am as a person. And I just found that when I learned that futuristic was a skill at all, the ability to kind of see from the clutter of like the possibilities and envision something in the future and get people excited about it, that was really exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many of our top strengths are the same thing that we appreciate and love the most, and also frustrates us
Yeah,
in that same way, right? Because
totally.
it's almost like when you're putting too much into it, it's almost like it goes into overdrive for so many of us.
Hmm.
I also love the intellection input combination. I feel like that's a really common combination for strong, smart women that I know. I see so
Oh,
many of the strong, smart women that I know who have intellection and input as a combination,
I
right?
love
That
that.
idea of like being great at having just smart conversations and wanting to have those. And in the same vein, being the almost like hoarder of information, right? Like you gather all the information so you can share this great.
Yeah,
The sharing piece. Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm very grateful for the focus strength because it means I can actually do stuff, like actually really buckle down and get stuff done. That's really, I feel like I have a kind of strange ability where I can just lock in on something and then 8 to 10 hours will pass and I won't even realize it. It's something I actually have to keep in check for myself because I just get into the zone. And it's been very helpful over the years with projects, but I'm glad that I have it because otherwise I think I would kind of be in la la land potentially. So
With your futuristic.
yeah, I think so.
So, okay, I don't know where this fits, but this is an observation and kind of like something that I picked up on, maybe like quite a bit afterwards, after I worked with you and Phil. But one of the things that struck me was I think it's in the audit. No, yeah, I think it's in the audit process where we as your clients basically like share most everything is basically what happens in these
Mhm.
conversations. I have referred to it as you get witnessed. Like you pour out all like your story and all this kind of stuff with you. My observation with you is or was your ability to drop below a kind of underneath, and I sort of think of this in comparison to coaching, but you had this ability to drop underneath all of like the ramblings, because I know I was totally not coherent, I'm sure, and pick out these gems and land on like, here's your brand. Like, this is I listened to you for 30 or 45 minutes, but here's what you stand for. And just your ability to like see through that clutter almost and drop underneath the words and be able to pick out, I think of my branding statement, which is all of, I think, 6 words. And yet in those 6 words, it's just jam-packed with power. And so I don't know where if that fits with your top 5 strengths or if it drops into some of the others, but that was something that really stood out for me.
Wow. Thank you. That means so much. That's great and really good feedback for me as well, because the brand audit process is vulnerable. It's pretty vulnerable to not only talk about your career ad nauseum, but also share your hopes and ambitions and also your current challenges. I totally respect that. That's not easy to do. It's really tough to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes. I feel like maybe that the way that you feel does speak to my strengths combination, because I am comfortable, obviously, with gathering information. I mean, the listener can't see this, but behind me, I've got hundreds of books. Very much my comfort zone. So no, for me, like all information is good information, and staying high level in the intellection part, that's also very comfortable for me. But I feel like I maybe have an ability to kind of sift through that and piece out what the kind of nuggets are that I think could supercharge someone's presence online, and then make a plan and a vision to actually put that into action. At least that's what I try to do.
You do
And
it.
you do
You
it.
do it.
Yeah.
And you do it very, very, very well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So I need to jump in with the squiggle piece here, because I feel like, so you went into this job in New York City, and now you're kind of at this cool, super branding agency and have a side gig going that you can tell us all about as well. But I also want to see how'd you get there? Like, what was the leap from intern at some really cool e-newsletter before anyone else was doing them to you can figure out people's brands?
Yes, it's been quite a journey. I will preface by saying that I've always been someone who has taken on more than what my plate has the capacity to hold. That's always been who I am. In high school, I won the top all around student of the year award every single year. The other students must have been so freaking sick of seeing my face everywhere. I was a student council president for 2 years in a row. Supposedly, that's never happened in the history of my school. I was always an overachiever, always, always, always. And I feel like that's potentially why I'm very comfortable with entrepreneurship and trying things out and diving in, because again, if I have a vision for what I want to achieve, then I really know what I want to go after. So when I was in New York City doing that internship, I knew that I wanted to have a job writing. I had, after jumping around majors about 3 or 4 times in university, I had decided and landed on an English lit degree, which is going to really parlay nicely into our conversation with what's going on now. And I knew I wanted to get paid for writing. So I decided I wanted to move to New York City when I was at university. I applied to 75 internships because I didn't know anyone in New York City. I ended up getting 3. So I was doing 3 internships simultaneously, and really, I know I'm telling you,
I'm like guffawed at that. Like who
Yeah.
can do 3 internships at the same time?
I don't know. Balance
Lauren.
has always been challenging for me. So Daily Candy was, I believe, 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and that was paid. I was also working at an entertainment talent management company for a couple days a week as an internship. And that one had a stipend, or it was paid hourly. I can't quite remember. And then I was also picking up freelancing jobs here and there. Now, at this time, I'm not sure if you remember the peak of Charlie Sheen when he was doing his whole tiger blood thing, but he posted online, I believe on Twitter, that he was running an internship competition that was based on social media.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes. And I nominated my friend Phil, who I met on the second day of university in Canada. I basically like submitted him almost as a joke to this competition, and then was like, ha ha ha, look at this tweet that I sent for you, or you should send this. I can't even really remember it. All I know is that a tweet was sent, and we thought it was funny. Then we found out about a week later, I believe, that out of 90,000 applicants, we'd made the first cut of the 50%. And then, Phil, and Phil's like me too, like all or nothing personality. So we were like, oh, this is serious, and immediately kicked into overdrive. So from there, Phil and I essentially set up a entire social media campaign. And in those days, I believe business pages on Facebook had just come out. Instagram wasn't around. It was Twitter, it was YouTube, it was Facebook, like very, very, very early days of social media. Most companies weren't even on it, or if they were, it was just very preliminary.
Yep.
And we created this campaign where I was behind the scenes, basically like a puppet master telling Phil what to do. And then Phil was with his camera crew filming everything that I was telling him to say, doing media and things like that. And so in this campaign, we ended up getting over 150 international media appearances, including the front page of the Toronto Star entertainment section. I believe it was multiple times. And I was really excited because I was like, wow, this requires writing skills and I'm really having fun and I'm working with my pal and this is great. So I used that to apply to a job at MTV as a social media manager. And out of 5,000 applicants, I ended up being the top 2 for this job. I didn't ultimately get that job that they were hiring for, but they referred me to a different department for MTV World. And then I ended up getting that job. So I worked in social media for MTV and was the head of it for MTV World. And again, very early days, I got some really great experience. I then moved to Broadcast Music Inc., which is a PRO in New York City as well. So they're basically responsible for collecting all of the royalty payments for artists and distributing them. They're kind of like Taylor Swift's bank. Taylor Swift is actually with BMI, and I'm devastated because during what became Hurricane Sandy, I was supposed to fly down to Nashville to interview her at the beginning of her career. And I just know we would have been best friends. But then Hurricane Sandy
Totally would have
happened.
been best friends.
Yeah, we
Oh,
absolutely would have. We
I
would have
think we can
bonded
make
over
that
the
happen.
bangs at least.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then after BMI, I got an agency job in like the Los Angeles area, a big agency. And so that's where I got experience managing clients. So I was the head of social media there, and I was managing accounts worth multiple millions of dollars and was really overseeing the reputation management for companies that literally had like a $2 billion valuation. I don't even really think I was qualified to be doing that, but somehow figured it out, somehow did okay. And while all of that was happening, while I was working on those jobs, I was also freelancing with Phil mornings, evenings, and weekends because I'm a maniac. And I was looking at the work that we were doing for Phil, and I was also seeing what was going on in the social media landscape. And I was looking at the work that was being charged so much money by the agency I was working at. And I realized that there was an opportunity to provide agency level or even better than agency level work for about half to a third of the price tag as a small team. So I went to Phil and I said, I really think we should do this together. I think we should do this full time. I can manage the clients. I can help you price. You're underpricing yourself. We need to structure this, blah, 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 blah. And Phil said, no, how am I going to pay you? And I said, we'll figure it out. And then he's like, no, I can't afford you. Like, I'm a business of one. And then I think when I make up my mind about something, it's really tough for me to turn away from it if I know it's the right call. And so I think like a couple weeks later, I just ended up like quitting my job and I was like, we're doing this. We're doing this. And then the rest is kind of history from there.
Took a leap of faith, took a
Yeah.
risk. Sometimes you got to do that. You just got to go all in with like an abundant mindset.
Yeah.
And let it all fall into place.
And there's nothing wrong with working for a company and that's your calling and you do that. Like that's great. My mom is a career counselor and her job for over a decade was actually doing layoffs on behalf of companies. I feel like maybe my exposure to that made me a little like leery of just putting all of my eggs into one basket. I personally feel that I am much more financially safe than someone maybe who's working for a company and has that one paycheck. Because if I lose one of 30 clients, I'm not going to feel that as hard as losing one of my only job. So I've always been a very big proponent of helping people find multiple sources of income, because I really think that if you love what you do, it can work out really, really well.
Speaking of multiple sources of income here and the books behind you, tell us about Book Huddle because this is amazing to me. I mean, your success on this is like you hit it out of the park with not even planning to. At least I didn't
Not
think you planned to.
not plan to whatsoever. I was really liking TikTok as a platform. I was spending a lot of time there. I found it really interesting. I was on TikTok for months. And finally, Phil was like, well, if you like TikTok so much, why don't you just post there? And for me, I've always been someone who's been more comfortable operating behind the scenes, even with Phil Pallen Collective. It's Phil's face and name on it, and it's his company, so as it should be. And with clients, I've always been behind the scenes, and I feel like over the, you know, more than 10 years that I've been working in this field, my identity in a way was so intertwined with the work that I was doing for other people that while helping everyone find their voices, the hundreds of clients over the years, I didn't really know how to find mine. So I decided to just try posting on TikTok for fun, even just so I could get experience and be able to advise clients on how to grow on that platform because Phil doesn't really like posting there and it was just good for research. And I wanted to post about something that I would never, ever, ever be sick of, even if I went through like the longest, hardest day of work. And so I knew I didn't want it to be about branding. I really, really didn't want it to, because when I'm done work, I'm done. Like I don't want to think about it. It's hard enough for me to log off as it is. So I really need those boundaries. So I decided to post about books. And I've always been a huge reader, always been taking all the extra English classes. It's always been part of who I am, and I did get that English lit degree. So I started just posting about books. And quite quickly, I started to find my voice and my people online. And in April of this year, I shared an idea that I had for kind of a book club weekend where you could rent out a nice place, read a book, talk about book, have some wine, go to bed at a reasonable hour and, leave. And that's that. No ongoing commitment. The post ended up going viral. It was liked over 60,000 times, shared over 18,000 times. And everyone was commenting saying, please do this. Please organize this. I would come to this. Let me give you my credit card. I got that one a few times. So I immediately, I think after 30 comments or something, I created a survey in Google, like a Google form, and I put it in my bio and I replied to everyone saying, if you want to come, tell me what you want and I'll try to make it happen. So 2,400 people from all around the world filled in the survey. And the survey had many questions. It was very excessive in how many questions it had. How many nights would it be? Where are you from? What kind of books would you want? What activities would you want besides reading? How much would you pay? Would you want a shared room? Every question you can think of related to retreats, I asked it. And I felt like after getting all of those, answers, I had enough data to be able to make an informed decision about what I could package up to sell, because I'm basically just serving people back what they want. So everyone who filled in the survey got on my mailing list, and I had a few other ways of building my mailing list too. And I launched the tickets for my very first retreat end of June, and it sold out, which was really exciting. And then I
And sold out in like a heartbeat.
It was pretty quick. So one thing that I did, I set up a Patreon before I sold any tickets to the retreats, where I basically had different membership tiers and people could pay a membership fee. And in exchange, they would get early access to the retreats and they would get a coupon towards their retreat ticket. And I did this because I really wanted to make sure that people were putting their money where their mouths were. And before I signed some really scary big contract in the US for a venue, I really wanted to make sure people were legitimate. So 75 people ended up signing up for that. And I had initially 30 tickets to sell. But after the 75 signed up, I felt like I could go up to 40, because if they're not going to be buying tickets, then why would they be paying for the Patreon anyway? So I felt like I could at least break even. And I did. So it sold out really quickly. I believe the first retreat sold out within 13 hours of going public. And then so 37 hours total, because some of the people got 24 hours early access. Then I organized a second retreat and put it for sale the following month. And that one sold out within 4 hours of going public.
Oh my
So 28
goodness.
hours total. And then last week I just sold the third retreat tickets, and that one sold out the fastest yet and to the most people yet. So that was very exciting. That was 50 tickets, and it sold out within 2 hours of going public.
Lauren,
It's
that's amazing.
Very exciting. I'm still kind of
That
pinching
is.
myself and waiting for the other shoe to drop, to be quite honest. So
I don't
That
think
is
there's another shoe to drop. I mean, I think this is something you're passionate about. I mean, it motivates me on TikTok every time I see your videos. I'm like, oh, I gotta go post something else, right? I mean,
Oh.
everything that you do, it just kind of is magical there.
oh, thank you. Thank
It has
you.
motivated me to read books. I mean, I now read the Sarah Moss Universe books.
Yes. Really? What book are you
Yes.
on?
The second one.
Nice. That one's
Yes.
really good.
I just get your Instagram and it's inspired me to post more reels.
Awesome.
I've got this like resistance to TikTok. I think it's just that I can't do another platform. There's too
Yeah.
much. There's
Yeah.
too many, too much. So I'm happy that you started Instagram. And now I'm going to, post and try and get 21,000 followers too in 6
Yes.
weeks.
Absolutely.
That's my goal.
I do it. Reels are such a great way to grow. And I really think that people put too much pressure on themselves to show up as a certain thing. My content, like, I mean, I'm not wearing makeup in most of my posts. Like my rosacea is like flaring and free and no filter whatsoever.
It's
And
authentic. I love
yes,
it. It's
and
authentic.
that's what really, whenever I get messages from people, it's actually really sweet, but a lot of people will send me messages saying, you're my favorite account. And I get so excited when you post. And, it like literally makes my day. It's so amazing and very tough for me to see. But people say that they like it because it is very authentic and real and relatable. And
Yeah.
so if there's one thing that I've learned from building this community of now 85,000 people across TikTok, Instagram, and newsletter, is that showing up as you are, the real you, without any bells and whistles, is just as impactful, if not more impactful, than when you dress up and try to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you and I had a bit of time where we weren't working together, and we hopped on a call last week for the first time, like more in like a businessy context, to chat about a couple of things. And I got off that call and I was like, this has changed her.
Really?
Yes. I was
Oh.
like, who was that? And what, okay, I'll see you in March. I was like, I hardly spoke. I was like, this has changed you. All for it's amazing. But I just thought you found your voice. You just were owning your space so differently. And I feel like it's been this journey you've been on.
Thank you.
Because I seriously got off and I was like, who was that? And what happened to my team of Lauren and Phil? Because that wasn't
meek,
them.
sad friend, Lauren.
No, I was like,
Yeah.
that wasn't them.
Well, you learn a lot about yourself and your voice when you get used to speaking in 15 seconds or less, 1,500 times over. I counted, I've done over 1,500 TikTok videos. You really learn a lot about your voice through that exercise. This whole book huddle venture has been so exciting for me because I've always been someone who's had low self-esteem. I believe in my ability to get things done, but I don't believe that I'm great. I don't believe that I'm awesome. I don't believe that I'm smart. I just feel like an imposter 24/7. And so it's been a really amazing experience to create something that has quite literally changed lives. Most people at the first retreat that happened, told me that it was one of the best weekends of their life.
Wow.
I think there was a 99% satisfaction rating from the 40 attendees who went there. And I didn't know anything about event planning. I just knew the feeling I wanted to create. And I knew that I wanted every single person to feel welcomed and celebrated and special. And It's just been so energizing to know that if I've got an idea, I can just go after it and make it happen.
I mean, I remember watching on TikTok, you had a group who went and got matching tattoos. Right? Complete strangers who didn't know each other a few days before went and got matching tattoos because
Yeah.
what you built was so impactful to them.
Which is why I was like, that's permanent, right? I was like so flattered. It's the highest compliment you could ever receive. But at the same time, I was like, does that mean I'm organizing these forever? Like, does that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think has been the biggest area of growth for you in the last, say, 6 to 12 months?
The biggest area of growth for me has been putting myself out there. I've always felt a little uncomfortable walking that fine line between Phil's business and also honoring my clients. I've been going to therapy for the past year and a half, and that's been transformative for me because I remember one time I was telling my therapist how excited I was when I had my first TikTok video that took off. I said, I really wish I had started this sooner. And she was like, well, why didn't you? And I said, because I didn't want clients to see me putting myself first when I owed them things. And she said, well, what's wrong with putting yourself first? And it was a great question, but I was so scared of letting people down. And I've always been a people pleaser and always just felt guilty whenever I've needed to do things for other people. And so that's been my biggest area of growth is whenever I feel that inkling to be like, oh, I should probably tackle my inbox, or, oh, I should probably get back to that person, or I should probably have a call. I always take a beat and I go, well, what's wrong with putting myself first? What do I want to do right now? That's been really, really big for me. It's always hard, but I'm getting better at it.
I mean, when you put yourself first with those things, look at all the people you've impacted, right? All of those tens of thousands of people on TikTok who are following you and, either exposed to new books like me that I would never have picked up otherwise. And now I'm like watching your post and thinking, I can't see that post because I might find something out about the book I haven't gotten to yet. Right? Like, I mean, you've engaged so many people because of it. It's a gift to so many people.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm hearing in there, I think I quoted this to one of my clients this morning around the Maya Angelou quote. It's not, people won't remember what you did or what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's what I really I heard in terms of this first retreat.
Yeah.
Is that they all walked away with the feeling, not so much, the swag bags or whatever else, but
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing. And that's why these retreats I shouldn't say never say never, but I always want these retreats to have an intimate feel to them. So as of right now, having more than 50 people feels too much. That's when we start kind of veering into conference territory, and that's not what I want.
Yeah.
So making sure that there's a space where I can have a meaningful conversation with everyone who's there and where people can really have good talks about the books that we're focusing on. I feel like that's always going to be kind of the leading standard that I go for with these.
Well, I think Let's Book Huddle looks great on you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything that you would like our listeners to know in terms of a question that we haven't asked you?
I think that something that's always been tough for me personally, and also something that I've noticed is tough for clients, is remembering that there are people on the other side of your posts, your emails, whatever you're doing online. And something that really became a big moment for me on TikTok in particular was when I started to actually make conversations with people beyond just those kind of surface level replies to comments. And so I think that right now we're living in an age where it's tough to get attention, and it's also tough to stay focused because there's so much happening. But at the end of the day, really to build a career that you love, I feel like it really does come down to connecting with other people. So instead of worrying about however many followers you have or however many leads you wish you had for clients, I feel like there's just so much to benefit from developing a meaningful connection with fewer people, but focusing more on the quality of that connection.
A great piece of advice.
Thank you.
Hey, Colleen, are you going to hit her up with our rapid fire fun questions?
I
Oh
will.
my gosh.
All right, here we go. There's only 5 of them, so we're not going to
Okay.
make you too over the top. All right,
Do I
our
have to
first one.
answer really quick? Or
Yes, you get like
Okay.
0.2 seconds to answer.
Are
No.
you serious?
First thing that comes in your mind. It's supposed to be
Okay.
quick. All
Okay.
right, and fun. All right, first one, pen or pencil?
Pen.
Do you have a favorite pen?
You know what I do? I have pens of different colors, different pastel colors, and then I have highlighters of different pastel colors. And I create a little to-do list. Today's the purple day to sort of set the tone of what colorful vibe I want for that day. And I do something different for every single day.
I love that.
Love it.
All right, Excel or PowerPoint?
Excel. Well, actually Google Sheets if I'm going to get really picky.
Sure. I feel you there.
Mhm.
All right, cats or dogs?
Do I have to choose?
Do you have both?
I love all animals. Like my dream scenario would be I live somewhere that's remote with alpacas, goats, as many cats as possible, and all kinds of dogs. So I don't know if I could choose. I have 2 cats that I love, but I love all animals. So I have to pass on that one.
I feel like if you have 2 cats, you have to give cats the up
I
on
guess
the
so.
like at least, just a minuscule above.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. By like a hair.
Okay. Adventure or relaxing vacation?
Relaxing, of course.
Yes. A book huddle vacation
Yes. Yeah.
that you just get to go to and not have to run.
Yes. That would be really nice.
Oh, I see that. I see that in your future. You hire staff for the book
Mhm.
huddle company.
I had a good interview with someone the other day who I'm creating like SOPs and figuring out how to build
Love it.
them first, and then
Yep.
I'll see what I can hand off.
Love
But
it.
Nice.
Love
All right,
it.
last one. Salty or sweet?
Salty. 100% salty.
Excellent. And last time when Christine and I were talking about that one, she said personality or
Oh.
food. And I
Well,
was like,
that too.
ooh, I had not thought about it that way.
I know.
Who
We had a good
doesn't love
chuckle.
a salty personality? Just makes things
Exactly.
interesting.
Oh my gosh.
100%.
Yeah.
I probably answered that question most confidently of all 5 when she did them for me.
Well, I feel like we could talk forever, but unfortunately we can't. But thank you, Lauren, so much for being our guest today. So where can people find you after hearing about all your TikTok stuff? I'm sure they're going to want to find you on TikTok.
Yes, my TikTok is Book Huddle, BOOKHUDDLE. And on Instagram, it's Let's Book Huddle because someone has Book Huddle and I've sent them about 1,000 DMs asking how I can get that name, but they haven't replied to me. So it's Let's Book Huddle right now, but please like cross your fingers for me that it will be Book Huddle for consistency sometime in the near future.
Excellent. So if the people who own Book Huddle on Instagram are listening, please reach out and we'll connect you with
Please.
Lauren and figure out how to make this happen for her.
We'll make
Yes,
sure we
please.
tag them. We'll tag them on Instagram when
Oh
we
my
post our
gosh.
little snippet.
It will, because I'm in branding. It keeps me up at night. Like that inconsistency. It's like stopping me from business cards. It's like really holding me back. I need that handle. So anything that Embrace
We'll
the Squiggle can
manifest
do.
it.
Yes, thank you.
Exactly. We'll just start manifesting it for you.
Totally.
Amazing. Well, you can also follow Embrace the Squiggle on Instagram, and you
Done.
can stay connected with Colleen and myself on LinkedIn and on Instagram ourselves. Colleen, what's your Instagram handle?
At Colleen Delve, DELV.
And I am Christine.Thody for updates, additional insights, and then, of course, our future podcast guests, including this one, Lauren. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
This was a blast. Thank you.
This was a ton of fun. So please don't forget, listeners, to like and subscribe now and embark on a transformative journey of professional discovery. Is it
time for you to add a little squiggle to your career? Join us every week to hear from another guest talk about how they embrace the squiggle.
Subscribe now and find your inspiration.